There's only one Faith Evans, and 25 years after she asked us to get closer, BLCK also comes live in studio to celebrate the debut album that became a classic this Friday, only on KBLA Talk 1580. Tune in, turn it up. This one's ours.
We run this mother. For the love of money.
Gotta get on the grind, giving it up to the 9-9. If you slip, you can chalk it, fall in the nighttime. Gotta get mine, ain't taking no shorts on the lounge and top of the phone. Call up my homie, tape at home, polishing this Mac 10 chrome. Got a lick, we can hit till quarter, click this once again. It's time to the zone with a flip of bird. My wit to the curb, so I swerve and roll loud. To pick up the rest of my thugs, let's straight on the mission for counting up more now. Joe, when I hit the bump, gonna ride like every day with 4 more thugs. I'ma roll with and stroll with till we end up in the grave and lay. Put it in the drop. We spotted the place and quickly rolled up. Gotta make that money, man. Hopped out of the ride, see flexed and showed up. Fucking a kaboom, so drop it on down with them into the room. Them doom, I'm not shaking the dice and hit them in naturals on them fools. And I'm looking lovely, you better not think it's funny. I'm coming up quicker than that quatch, cause flesh be loving his money.
I'm giving up love to the hustlers, all them sack clip busters, making that money, stand on your feet. And you better believe, gotta have that cheese for the green leaves, never catch me sleep. Steady on the grind, get my stand down from a crime, and I hit up the 9-9. Gotta keep that bankroll, making me say up 20s, nickels and dime. Hit us for stick up, lick up that 211. Gotta get what's mine, been failing. Me kicking up dust, I'm a trailing, failing 187. That's how it
KBLA Talk 1580. Wow. I'm time traveling right now. So excited to talk with Krayzie Bone. He's a Grammy Award winner with BoneThugs-n-Harmony. Also on the solo tip, he is an entrepreneur. He is just an iconic cultural innovator. And I haven't talked to him on the radio mic for 4 decades, I would say. Krayzie Bone, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you for joining this morning on the angelversary of one Eric Wright, Eazy E, who passed away on this day 31 years ago.
Yes, indeed.
You've done an amazing job of you and the entire Bone organization of always giving credit and giving light to Eric. I mean, with tribute songs and albums and, you know, all kinds of things. Why do you do that? Why do you feel compelled to keep doing that?
Well, it's simply because if it wasn't for Eric Wright, I wouldn't be speaking with you today. You know what I'm saying? So it's like he's responsible for the path for changing our path of life. We weren't with him for that long before he passed away.
Right.
But what he done for us, is priceless. We didn't really get a chance to really thank him for what he done for us. I mean, of course, we didn't know that we would have the success we've had, but he's responsible for all of that. He saw the vision when so many other people passed up on us. He saw the vision immediately. Like he didn't let us get past him at all.
I clearly remember like it was yesterday, Krayzie, when Eazy brought me the music, and to me it sounded wild. I had never heard anything like that before. He played Thuggish Ruggish, and I was like, Eric, what the heck is this? And and we played it on my show at the time, which was Street Science, and I know it was one of the first times it was played because it wasn't even out. But it was so weird. It sounded weird to me. I mean, I love Bone, you know that. I'm a Bone Thugs-n-Harmony fan, but at the time it just sounded like something from outer space.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely different. Definitely different. And we get that a lot. I mean, we used to do talent shows back home, and like people used to be like, "Y'all sound like some Oriental rappers or something." Like, it was a crazy vibe. It was a crazy.
But Eric was so high on it. I mean, he was so insistent. And I remember telling, one of my best friends, Mariama, I remember telling her, she was the music director at the time, we got to listen to Eric because he basically built this whole West Coast, West Coast thing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, she got it quicker than I did because she's got those ears. But I just said, okay, well, if he says this is what's up, this is what's up. And since that time, we've seen that you guys really did change the game in terms of the way people rap, the harmonies, the fast rapping, the melodies, and all that stuff. How does that feel to look back, and say we changed the whole game?
Yeah, man, it's a wonderful thing. We didn't when we were with E. Like I said, E was a visionary, so he knew exactly what we were gonna do because he was blown away. Like he used to come to our sessions and just sit in our sessions while we were working, just be sitting there blown away, man, how'd y'all come up with that? And he used to tell us, he was like, do y'all know y'all singing? Y'all singing actually the Temptations. We what? So we didn't even realize the kind of style we had until Eazy is actually the one who we changed, we added the Thugs-n-Harmony to our name because of him, because we had a song called Thugs-n-Harmony and we was called Bone. We was just Bone at first. And then we had a song called Thugs-n-Harmony, and Eazy was he was like, yo, that should be your name because y'all rapping in harmony. We was like, yeah, but Bone is the family name. So he was like, be Bone Thugs-n-Harmony. And that's where the name came from.
Wow, that's wild. Yeah, he definitely had a knack. He would sit in my office all the time. It's like, hey, you got to do better. This is good, but you got to be better. I'm like,
yeah.
Dang, Eric.
Yeah.
Then he'd get on the phone and start calling people. You got to do Dominique's show. Like, what?
Oh, yeah.
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 So, I realize you guys are actually still touring. You have been so prolific as a solo artist, but Bone Thugs-n-Harmony has had a lot of different, I guess, phases and beefs and different iterations. Well, this part of the family's going this way and that part of the family's going that way. But it looks like, I'm looking on your Instagram, and it looks like you guys are all back together. Is that fair?
Yeah. So the thing is, it was never no official breakup with Bone. People, we've been together since we were in junior high school. You know what I'm saying? Some of us even before then, so it's when you with your brothers like that for that long, it's of course you're going to need time to get up and go out on your own and experiment and grow and whatever. But we never officially said Bone Thugs-n-Harmony was broke up ever. People assumed it, but we never said it.
Right. And everybody's free. Everybody's out. Everybody's healthy. And you guys are on tour. In fact, Anaheim House of Blues tomorrow.
Tomorrow, and we're getting ready to go on tour with Wu-Tang. Wu-Tang doing their last and final tour, and they asked us to come support them on the tour out in August. So everybody be looking out for the Wu-Tang and Bone tour coming very soon.
That's going to be just an amazing combination, don't you think?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's definitely buzzing right now, for real, for sure.
Yeah. You had a health scare. You're fine. Everything's good.
Yes. Everything is good. Thank goodness.
How did that? I mean, because from what I understood, it was pretty serious. How does that kind of a brush with death? I don't know. Maybe that's being too dramatic, but that's how it sounded reading about it. How does that change your perspective on your work and what you're doing moving forward?
Oh man, it definitely is an eye opener. It definitely lets you understand the amount of time we have here to get things done. It's not a lot, so there's really no time to waste. I cut a lot of things. After that experience, I just did a lot of self-examination and reassessing my life and everything. And now, I'm good. I didn't really have to make too many big changes. I was already in the process of making changes anyway, so it was just a reassurance that you're doing the right thing. Keep going with it, for real.
Yeah, that's. I'm glad. I mean, of course, I'm always praying for the ones that that I know and admire, and I am, a fan of Bone Thugs and Harmony for sure. Do you think that
Yes, indeed.
your organization, yourself, and your creative family gets the credit that you guys should get? I was happy to see, Megan the Stallion hiring you guys for her boyfriend's birthday, for Clay's B-Day, because to me that meant, okay, here's a newer generation artist, you know, giving some credit. But do you think you guys get
Yeah.
enough credit?
I mean, like to me, it's like, yeah, I think we do. I think we get enough credit because when people see us, it's always love. It's never no hate. It's never no disrespect. I'm not one of them people that has to be mentioned among every category. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, the greatest group or the greatest rapper or the I'm cool. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because we know what we brought to the table. The fans know, the industry knows. So I don't really like get into all that for real.
I love that because it means you're not bitter. You stay creative. You stay keep it moving. I always say,
Exactly.
Krayzie Bone. I always say the streets know. When people tell me, "Oh,
Exactly.
nobody knows you, Dominique. You've been doing this forever." Well, the streets know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And
Nah.
everybody, come on, we know that. Everybody know Dominique. Come on, man, they slipping. It's for real, for real.
I appreciate that. You've really pivoted as an entrepreneur too. You've done, your clothing line has been very successful, and you've brought on other artists. You've done labels. Is that part of why you don't have to hold on to what was, or how's the empire doing, Krayzie Bone?
Yeah. I'm constantly moving on. You know what I'm saying? Like what was the past was the past. I don't live in the past, because there's a lot to still be done in the future, and that's what I try to focus on. I have a nonprofit. I have two nonprofits. One called Spread the Love, and the other one called the Harmony District. The Harmony District is what I'm doing. I went back to Cleveland, and I'm revitalizing the area, 99th and St. Clair, that we came up. I was awarded parcels from the city, and I'm revitalizing these parcels, and we're calling it the Harmony District. So in a few years, when y'all come to Cleveland, y'all gonna have to come down to the Harmony District. We're building the BoneThugs-n-Harmony Museum, cafe, hotel. It's gonna be crazy. So yeah, we doing a lot in the city.
Yeah, and the spread the love.
Yeah, well, Spread the Love. I do music programs for the youth, aspiring artists. I teach aspiring artists because I believe in this music industry. It has always been unbalanced on the part of the artist. And the reason being is because we lack the education when we get in to deal with these corporate giants. So I'm teaching them everything, not just how to be an artist or a producer. I'm teaching them everything that's on the back end that people never see, all the positions that you can endeavor upon, not just being an artist. You know what I'm saying? There are other positions in the music industry or entertainment, that you can pursue. And a lot of those positions, they make way more money than the artists anyway. So you might want to follow the folks, you know what I'm saying, for real.
More money and is more steady, right? More guaranteed in that
Exactly.
sense. I saw on your Instagram one post where you said more music, less drama.
Yeah.
Does that mean the season of beef is over?
No, when that statement really means the drama of the industry, all the political stuff. Beef is part of hip hop. That's part of hip hop. You know what I'm saying? So that comes with the package. Like
Right.
if you get into hip hop, if you can go through your whole career without beefing with anybody, you've done good. You know what I'm saying? But beef is a part of this thing. So just be prepared to get into something for real.
So you're talking about industry drama, and your solution to that is not abolish the industry, but be more educated about how the game is played.
Yes. Education is key. education is really key in anything you want to do. You have to research. If you want to be the best, if you want to be the best burger flipper, you're gonna practice. You're gonna do research. You know what I'm saying? So it's like anything you're serious about, you have to educate yourself about it so you could attack it the best way possible.
We're talking with Krayzie Bone. BoneThugs-n-Harmony is his group. They're on tour right now, and they're going to be touring this summer with Wu-Tang and much more straight ahead on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to here with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580. Tavis Smiley.
They say time flies when you're having fun. The founding members cohort is now officially over. Hard to believe. It's been a joy sharing what I've discovered after nearly 40 years of conversations with presidents, cultural icons, and game changers in every field of human endeavor. If you missed the first cohort, the good news is that we're already planning the next one. Now, the seats will be limited, and those on our waiting list will receive exclusive early access and special discounts not available to the general public. So, if you are ready to transform the way you connect, lead, and build trust, do not hesitate. Go to TavisTalks.com and join the waiting list today. That's TavisTalks.com. The next cohort is coming. Make sure you are in the room. I'm Tavis Smiley, and I hope to see you there.
Are you drowning in IRS tax debt? Angela was. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $80,000. Felicia was having health problems, got behind on her taxes, interest and penalties were adding up. She called Civic Tax Relief and saved over $15,000. Civic Tax Relief is a professional tax negotiation firm that can protect you from the IRS. If you're getting collection letters, call Civic Tax Relief for a free consultation. They will go to work helping you discover all the relief programs you may qualify for free. James owed the IRS $37,000. Civic Tax Relief represented him against the IRS, and by the time everything was completed, he did not owe the IRS anything. If you are in trouble with the IRS, call Civic Tax Relief for your free consultation now. 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257. Get a free consultation and real tax relief. Call 800-200-2257. 800-200-2257.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DePrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
You bless, we bless. Be blessed. I prostrate to my knees and begin to pray and thank God for the faith in these wicked days. Appreciate the life you gave and the life that was laid down so we could all be saved. I forever praise the Lord. I tell them we live the now at the end of the days for sure. Look at what's going down, that's what really make me know. Don't know what kind of clown they really mistake me for. Living in the now, I'm patiently waiting for it. Never let the stress and drama take my high. Don't believe in karma, so it don't enslave my mind. Believe in the resurrection, so I'm not afraid to die. Why? This ain't my real life, feel like feeling filthy rich, but it ain't about money. Killing, living in bliss, this world can't take from me. Haters don't exist, I admit, they feel lovely. Now all them suckers can see me shine. This is what life's supposed to be, my blessing. This is what life's supposed to be, my blessing.
Krayzie Bone of Bone Thugs-n-Harmony, TL Apparel, and many more enterprises is on the line with me as we celebrate the angelversary of Eazy E, Eric Wright, who passed away 31 years ago today. Wow, that 31 years went by quick. That's crazy.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. What do you think people, the main misconception or misperception about Eazy E is? I'm always, writing for him on this show because as a feminist and an outspoken woman, people are surprised that I'm such a Eazy stan. But I think I don't know if people get him. It's hard to understand all of him.
Yeah, he was he was a mysterious person, but he was a real down to earth dude. I remember when we first met him and we started hanging out with him, we was blown away like how cool and like down to earth he was. But we was like, he human. What else could he be? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But like people don't know that. They don't see the human side of people, man. He took real good care of us. He made sure he made sure that like we didn't like because like we was wild when we first came out here. Like when he
Yeah.
first brought us out here. I mean we had to get kicked out of every hotel on Ventura Boulevard. You know what I'm saying? Like it was like don't no Bone cannot stay here. Like you know what I'm saying. So the way he put up with us and like he knew we had something, man, and his vision, like you know, like Eazy. Nobody questioned his vision. Nobody. Yeah, like, you know, because they know, you know, like he knew what he was doing as far as he was the visionary of Ruthless, NWA, all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like he had the vision behind that stuff. So and his business savvy was, man, it was amazing. Like when you look at the artists he had, what he was building before anybody was doing it, you know, it's just crazy.
I don't know how you feel about this, even speaking on this, but I still don't believe the official story of Eric's death. I saw him maybe 2 weeks before, right before he was in the hospital.
Oh yeah, no. We that never sat well with us. You know, we talked to his son as well. You know, it never sat well with him. You know, so I mean, that's what I'm saying. You know, like you know, it just didn't add up. Nothing about that situation added up. It still doesn't add up today. You know, I know it's been a lot of controversy around the situation, but you know, I just don't believe it happened the way they said it happened. I don't know. You know, some people say, we speculating too hard, but I don't know. Like when you know somebody and you know the person is like looking healthy all the way to the end, you know, you raise questions. You know, because I've seen people who were terminally ill. When they pass away, they look terminally ill. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That just wasn't the case to me, you know. But, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. But, I have to raise that because I think about it. I think about it sometimes. You have a son that's a rapper, young NTG. And I don't know, maybe you have more.
Indeed.
That's the one I know. I'm a fan of him. How do you feel about your kids being in the industry, and what do you want your legacy to be?
Well, man, I think it's amazing. Like I've never pushed any of my kids to do music. You know, some of them just grabbed hold to it and ran with it. My son Nate was one, and he's really, really good. He got a lot of traction. Everybody I play his music for, they love it. You know, so. I think it's great that he's as serious with it as he is.
Yeah.
You know, because it sounds good, and you know he has the talent. You know, as far as my legacy, you know, it's just I just want people to remember me as being just consistent from the day I came in to the day I went out. Like never changing, never sacrificing who I am or what I've done, trying to keep up with what's new and none of that stuff. You know, when it's time for me to sit down, all the way down, you won't see me out here trying to keep up with with the youngsters out here. For real, you know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm setting myself up right now, you know, with all these other things that I'm doing, because I know eventually I'm not gonna want to go on the road and do no shows and stuff like that. You know, I'm gonna be home, just relaxing and tending to other businesses like that. So yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
But yet you all jumped right into that versus.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, that was legendary.
Yeah,
was legendary.
3-6 Mafia versus Bone Thugs. And what was your takeaway from that?
Man, it was crazy. You know, I wasn't expecting, you know, everything that jumped off. But you know, luckily at the end of the day, it ended cool. You know, like we still cool with those dudes, and you know everybody is cool. Rest in peace, Boo. That really messed me up.
Yeah.
Her passing away. Yeah, because we was cool. Paul and Boo, I'm closest with them too. You know what I'm saying? So when she died, it really affected me for real.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think Eazy would want to be remembered for? His legacy.
Man, he would want to be like remembered for what he's responsible for. The West Coast. The entire You know what I'm saying? Like the whole West Coast with because before Eazy, with the exception of Ice-T and a few others, Eazy pretty much fathered the whole West Coast and made it relevant, like in my eyes, So his legacy, and I don't like the fact that he doesn't get the respect that he should get. When I hear people talking about, they had the first independent labels. I'm like, how? When Ruthless Records was here, and the only person I think before him was doing that was Russell Simmons. So how? Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's like he don't get that same respect. I don't know if it's because of the way he died or whatever, but I just don't feel that's right, because he deserves way more recognition and respect on his name. He should have way more monuments and more than just Easy Street around here. Like, I feel like, for real, he should have a whole district to himself, like Cleveland is honoring BoneThugs-n-Harmony with a district. Easy should have his own district here, for real.
Yeah, well, I second that motion. And, I appreciate your spending some time doing what I do all the time. I'm always talking about Eric, because I think, like, I agree with you. He doesn't get the recognition that he should, even though he's world famous. Yeah. Krayzie Bone, tell us how to keep up with you, how to get on the tour, how to make sure that we're with you as long as you are not sitting down and relaxing at home.
Yes, indeed, man. You can follow me on Instagram at Krayzie_Bone and BTNH Live for BoneThugs-n-Harmony for all our tour dates and all that stuff.
And what about the merch? You're like a merch king, because
before
merch was a thing, you were merching.
Yes, indeed. If you're looking for some Bone merch, we got BoneThugs-n-Harmony, BoneThugs-n-Harmony.store, or you can go get the TL merch, the Life Apparel merch, at thelifeapparel.com. And if any artists out there need any merch done, holler at the Life Apparel. We got you.
Anthony Henderson, a.k.a. Krayzie Bone, thank you so much for talking with me this morning. I really appreciate you.
Yes, indeed. Anytime. All good.
Good. All good. Georgia Fort is next. KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominic DePrima when we come forward.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A strike appears to be ending at NYU after faculty reached a tentative contract agreement. This student joined the professors on the picket lines.
If they get their fair compensation, then I get the quality education that I'm paying for and that I deserve.
Professors demanded better pay, AI protections, and childcare. Black Maryland Governor Wes Moore says the Port of Baltimore had its second best year ever in 2025, moving about 50 million tons of cargo as it rebounds from the Key Bridge collapse. He toured reconstruction efforts and says he plans to cut the ribbon when the new bridge opens. And Nicki Minaj is accused of owing a production company $275,000. 24/7 Productions handled logistics for the 2022 VMAs and her Pink Friday 2 tour, but says Minaj never paid. The company is now suing. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Now is the time to save on an award-winning Nissan at the Nissan Now sales event, featuring the Rogue, Pathfinder, Frontier, and more. Don't wait. These offers are going fast. Shop your Southern California Nissan dealers and NissanUSA.com today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Hey, how's your NCAA tournament bracket looking? If you don't have at least 9 teams from the Big Ten Conference in your Sweet 16, you may have trouble getting that big payoff. 6 teams from the Big Ten are left in the men's bracket and 3 on the women's side. UCLA is one of the 3 Big Ten teams with a chance to go to the women's Final Four in Phoenix. The other 2 are Michigan and Minnesota. UCLA plays Minnesota Friday night in a Sacramento Regional semifinal. This is UCLA's second year in the Big Ten. Since joining the conference, the Bruins are 34-2 in the regular season against Big Ten opponents. In the men's bracket, the 6 Big Ten teams include Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, Illinois, Iowa, and Nebraska. Since the NCAA expanded to 64 teams in 1985, no HBCU men's or women's teams has made it to the Sweet 16. Let's hope that changes sometime soon. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
All I need is one mic.
With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. Less than 24 hours before a planned California governor's debate, USC and KABC Television Channel 7 pulled the plug after a week of growing outrage that not a single candidate of color had been invited to participate. USC says it was just math, polling numbers, fundraising totals, nothing personal. But here's the problem with that argument. Every one of the 6 candidates who made the cut was white, and every one of the candidates left out was not. At some point, the outcome is the message, regardless of the formula that produced it. The 4 excluded candidates, former U.S. Health Secretary Javier Becerra, former L.A. Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa, former State Controller Betty Yee, and State Superintendent Tony Thurmond, are not fringe figures. These are people who've won major statewide elections and served millions of Californians. Here's the deeper lesson. California is one of the most diverse states in the nation. Latino voters, Black voters, and Asian American voters don't just live here. We decide elections here. When the people organizing a debate about California's future build a stage that looks nothing like California, they're not just making a scheduling error, they're sending a signal about whose voice matters. Even some of the invited candidates called on USC to expand the field ostensibly because they understood what was at stake. That said, it is worth noting that none of the invited candidates had the courage to stand in solidarity with people of color and bow out of participating in the debate. But we'll leave that alone for now. Canceling the debate was not a victory, it was damage control. The real lesson is that diversity cannot be an afterthought in the criteria. It has to be baked into the thinking from the very beginning. Voters of color are not a special interest. We are the electorate. With the KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. As always, we welcome your feedback.
Find a righteous range and don't be afraid to say what you see. We're KBLA Talk 1580.
Man, I wish I can just take up all the next hour of Tavis's show, but I think I'd get fired. I'm really excited. We've got a 3-time Emmy Award-winning journalist, a 2025 Bush Fellow, founder of the BLCK Press. And she has been in the middle of national conversations due to her own talent and vigor as a journalist. Georgia Fort, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an honor.
Thanks for coming. I'm an admirer of yours.
Oh, I'm an admirer of yours. We're fangirling over each other.
We're fangirling, but it's not, just because you're beautiful and talented, those the obvious things. It's because as a journalist, I see the work, right?
Thank you.
You have brought back, well, I shouldn't say brought back, but really kind of brought back journalism in the sense of having the receipts, doing the paperwork, doing the investigative piece to back up what you say.
Yeah.
Where does that come from?
Well, it comes from the history of my career. Working as a journalist, I think the word journalism or journalist has kind of gotten watered down in the social media era where so many people are doing commentary and they use the word interchangeably. And I think that at times there is a place and a need for that. People should have context to the news and their information. But I really pride myself on doing a lot of enterprise reporting, which is going out, doing the research, doing the news gathering, and publishing original stories that folks are not finding elsewhere. It is the thing that I live for as a journalist. And sure, we can wrap commentary around it, but at the core of it, I've worked really hard as an independent journalist to make sure that at least 70 to 80% of what I'm publishing is still enterprise original reporting.
And you're also a mom, and you're also, doing whatever else you have to do to pull this entire organization together. So you're also kind of like an administrator or a business owner.
Yeah, I have 3 amazing daughters, 7, 8, and 17. But yeah, absolutely, the business side, I think, is the thing that most people, especially young people who romanticize, being online and garnering a following. I think a lot of it kind of looks easy, but there is a very intense side to the business that can be very consuming. I saw a funny meme online. It said, if you ever see me standing in the corner just like being quiet, staring off in space for a long time, I'm having a team meeting in my head. The marketing department is meeting with the website department, is meeting with the journalism department. It's all the departments are in my head because you literally have to do all of those things. But I'll say this. I wouldn't have it any other way, because I think that we are at a time where we are in the middle of an information war.
Yeah.
And the way that mainstream media is capitulating to this administration, I think it's intensified the urgency for truth, for platforms that can't be bought. And so I understand the assignment.
Right. And critical thinking, media literacy, which, I think you kind of teach by the way you report.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which is dope. Okay,
Thank you.
So, most people may have first heard of Georgia Fort around George Floyd because of the reporting that you did. You live in Minnesota, the sort of epicenter of that. And that can be scary doing that kind of reporting. Talk to me about how you stepped into that space.
Well, I ended up being one of 2 journalists inside the courtroom when Derek Chauvin was sentenced. So I followed a lot of the trial, the journey to justice. But we in Minnesota would have not seen a trial had it not been for the outrage of the community, because there were several days where Chauvin was not arrested. Right. And so what I started to see at that time, when I would turn on the television, and I'm right here, this is all happening in my backyard, my hometown where I'm from, turn on the TV, and it just didn't represent what was really happening on the street. And so I felt very convicted as a storyteller, as a journalist, that I had a duty to go out and document what was actually happening. And so, I remember one of the most powerful interviews I did during that time was with the young girl, the 7-year-old girl who was walking to the corner store with her cousin, who actually witnessed the murder of George Floyd. Being able to humanize her and tell her story as a child, what that experience was like, to be able to tell the stories of joy and rebuilding and the many organizations that came together. There's just so many things that just never really made it into mainstream media, and what had led to that point, because George Floyd didn't happen in a vacuum, and no one in mainstream media was really doing that deep dive of what came before that. So Philando Castile, and then Justine Damon and Jamar Clark. And not just the incidences themselves, but the way that the journey to justice transpired for each one of those cases, I think ended up kind of being a slap in the face.
Yeah.
Jamar Clark, his family got, I think, it was a very small amount. It was like $200,000. And Justine Damon, who was a white woman who was killed by a Somali officer, got $20 million.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And so it's like just the value of life, even in Minnesota, was and so that was the backdrop. Those were the things that the community had been experiencing up into George Floyd. And as a journalist, I think that context is important.
Yeah, it's important. It's everything. And now here we are again with Minnesota in the middle of, and it seems so unlikely. You would think, New York or LA, Chicago. No. Again, Minnesota's in the spotlight around the ICE raids.
I believe we are the birthplace of the modern global movement that we're seeing. if similar to Montgomery being the birthplace of the civil rights era, I truly believe everything keeps circling back to Minnesota because we are the birthplace.
You know, it's interesting because we were talking off the mic and you said Minnesotans don't play about civil rights.
Yeah, unrelenting. And I've just documented this over and over and over, and like all of these stories that I've kind of just thrown out there, right? That there is a body of people who care deeply about justice and righteousness, and who are willing to stand and hold the line until something is done, until someone is held accountable. And I think that spirit lives here in LA also. You know, there's, I mean, no shortage of stories here as well. But I think as a journalist, what I've realized is most of the stories of Minnesota have been overlooked and overshadowed just because, I don't know, what people thought we were a flyover state or that black people aren't there.
It's because it's too cold.
You didn't lie.
We can't go there and report. It's just too cold. We don't do all that.
Well, I'll stay. I got you guys. That's why I'm there.
But, of course, infamously, I should say, you were targeted by the Department of Justice, by Pam Bondi, for covering a protest inside a church. Your house raided. You were arrested. You live streamed it, which I told you off the air I thought was brilliant. I felt traumatized watching it. And that case is still ongoing, right?
That's right. Yeah. You know, when I think about even the decision to live stream when agents were at my door, I felt like I had to, because I couldn't depend on the media to get my story right.
Yeah.
I knew that they would just regurgitate what was in the criminal complaint. And I needed to broaden their understanding of what my role was that day.
So you media-proofed your story.
I did. I produced a whole package before I went to jail.
That's
wild. Here, let me give you some sound. Let me give you some B-roll. Let me give you some context. Let me give you the information and where you can look to get more and verify the things that I'm saying. Make your job very easy so you can get it right. Because oftentimes when we're at the center of it, and this is why I do what I do, is like mainstream media gets it wrong so often. And they make these excuses. Oh, we didn't have enough time, you know?
Right.
But the thing about what we're seeing right now, I think people are, you know, they're targeting you because you're independent. They're targeting you because you're black. But the thing, they're not targeting every black journalist. They're not targeting every independent journalist. Go look at my work. Yep. Maybe that's why they're targeting me. 6 months before Renee Good was fatally shot by ICE agents in Minnesota, I was working on a story about excessive use of force by federal agents in Minnesota. And guess what? The woman who I interviewed was arrested outside of my office 5 minutes after I interviewed her. I knew then that they were targeting me, right? Nobody's heard that detail.
I had not.
Yeah. A Latina woman, she was thrown to the ground, choked, and they pointed a live gun at her. And I had video evidence of this. So I interview her about the perceived violation of her First Amendment right. She's out protesting, and it was excessive use of force. It was clear, like we have video proof of this. So we do the interview. 5 minutes after the interview, they arrest the woman outside of my office. And I knew at that moment, you know where I am, you know what I am doing, you see me, and you don't like it. And so the thing is, if you're an independent journalist and you're quiet and you're upholding the status quo, you're not on their radar.
Right.
If you're a black journalist and you're upholding the status quo. So it can't, like, I think we have to move beyond like these kind of misperceptions of even this just being about race.
The oversimplification, really.
Yes.
I mean, but clearly you are not afraid, or you have found a way to be courageous, because a lot of folks, if they knew that federal agents were going to be coming to their door, would not be producing a story. They would either be preemptively surrendering, like a lot of these universities and corporations are doing, or they would be getting the hell out of Dodge.
Here's the irony about being arrested for covering the church protest. And I don't think I've told anybody this on the record. I am a deeply spiritual person. And so when you think about being in Minnesota and not being afraid, when you think about our DFL leader being assassinated, right? Like, there's so many reasons to be afraid.
Yeah.
So how are you not?
Right.
Well, because I'm standing in my faith. Because God did not give me a spirit of fear. And so we can, for those of us who are spiritual, we can recite that scripture and reference it. But if you can't actually be terrified and put it into practice, then tell me what your faith really means, right? Like, we have to, as spiritual people, move beyond the performative, the reciting of these things, and actually put them into practice. And so I tell people, when those agents came to my house, and they sent DEA, which also, just as a Black woman, is extremely humiliating. But I didn't surrender to them. I surrendered to God that day, and His will be done over my life, because I am standing on the promises of God that no weapon formed will prosper. Don't talk about the church protest and not talk about David Easterwood, who is a pastor there, who is also the ICE director regionally, and who was overseeing an operation that led to a 37-year-old mother being shot in the face, that led 7 days later to a Venezuelan man being shot and then falsely accused of attacking agents, which then we later found out in court was a lie. That same night, those agents almost killed a 6-month-old baby. A 6-month-old baby had to be resuscitated because they had deployed so many chemical agents and flashbangs in a highly residential area. And the church protest happened January 18th. 6 days later, Alex Preddy, a 37-year-old ICU nurse who works at the VA's hospital, was killed.
And for anyone that follows you, which I recommend you do,
Thank you.
Georgia Fort. I follow you on Instagram. I'm sure you're on all the other platforms as well, by your name, right? Georgia
Yep,
Fort.
by Georgia Fort. Yep.
You pick up the sense that even though we've heard that ICE and the federal agencies are standing down, that's not quite true.
Well, now they're at the airports.
Right.
So I think, I think especially in our community, because I think our community is tussling with, like, is this our fight? But, like, what about Keith Porter?
Yep. Right here in LA,
you know,
by an off-duty ICE agent.
You have white Americans who have been killed. You have Americans in Minnesota. We saw Americans of every race actually be arrested by ICE wrongfully. Judges have now called these different department heads into the subpoenaing them to talk about more than 100 constitutional violations, more than 100 due process violations. So we're beyond the point of, like, left wing, right wing. We're beyond opinions. These are facts that our constitutional rights, our civil rights are being violated, and it's become so normal. Like, people aren't even outraged about it. It doesn't even make headlines anymore. And so for them to say that Operation Metro Surge has ramped down, okay, but did Project 2025?
Right.
Because it seems like there is a clear agenda and they are just checking items off their list. And so now they're moving on to whatever the next agenda item is. And so as an American citizen, do we have a constitution?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's something that you've addressed, in which we need to address more. At what point do we say don't cross this line about the First Amendment and our constitutional rights? But I think there's also an assumption that, well, they're in the airport, so that means they're no longer on the streets of Minneapolis, on the streets of St. Paul, on the streets of LA. And we have a new DHS secretary. Now, you know, we've switched from Kristi Noem to Mark Wayne Mullin, so maybe it's getting better.
Who is independently overseeing any of these departments? So as a journalist, right, I could go with all of the talking points that are out there about, yeah, they're still out here. But no, like, as a journalist, like, let's look at the facts. None of these sources are credible. I can't I can't responsibly tell my community ICE is here and ICE is there if I don't have a way to independently verify and fact check where they are and what they're doing. And so that is a problem. The fact that our government is spending taxpayer dollars and there is no oversight. In fact, when congressmen and women have tried to exercise their oversight responsibilities, some of them have actually been arrested and charged federally as well. So we don't really know where they are. And as a journalist, I don't think that the department heads have proven to be credible sources of information. So I usually don't even source them. And it's not about being biased. It's about credibility. If you lie on the record, I'm not going to source you unless I can verify what you tell me in 2 or 3 other places. That's responsible journalism. And this is part of the reason why mainstream media is in shambles, because they will continue to source all of these department heads, all of these elected officials, and they keep lying. And so the misinformation that is plaguing our community right now, journalists are responsible for. You know what? People say, oh, you got to tell both sides of the story to be unbiased. Well, telling both sides when you know what the truth is actually harmful. Why would I tell you as a responsible journalist, here's the truth and here's a lie? You figure it out.
Right.
The other side of the truth is what? It's a lie.
Right. Especially if you can verify that the other is a lie.
And then you have some moral correctedness as well. Like, should we really be unbiased about school shootings? There's some things that are just fundamentally wrong. And I would think that also our Constitution would be one of those things that we shouldn't have to be objective or neutral about. We have a Constitution. These are what our rights are. It's not controversial. It's a fundamental American principle. It's the foundation of who we are as a nation.
It's not controversial unless you're dismantling it. I know there's only certain things you can talk about, and probably I shouldn't, I know you have to be careful because your case is still pending. But how do we keep track of what's happening with you? How do we support you as an independent journalist? I know a lot, Don Lemon sucked a lot of air out of the room because he's a celebrity, I guess, commentator now. And people know him from CNN, but there are actually 39 people in total arrested.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So how do we keep up? How do we support you? And what can you actually say about the case?
Well, folks can follow me. If you head to my website, georgiafort.com, all of my social media links are there. I've been doing the best that I can to continue to provide updates, but it's really hard to report on something when you're a co-defendant.
Yeah.
Every time I talk about the case, I have to think very strategically. Can anything I'm saying right now be used against me, right? And that also feels intentional. What I'll say about the case and the charges I'm facing, journalism is not a crime.
Word.
And if we criminalize it, imagine what that is going to do to our public's ability to access accurate and timely information. And so an attack on the press is not just simply an attack on individuals or journalists. It's an attack on the public's right to know. And so I really feel at the core that is what the case that has been wielded against me is about. When you zoom out and you see, there is a spectrum of people. School board member was at that protest. Concerned about how ICE was impacting schools, elected officials, people running for office, teachers, civil rights attorney. There was so many people there that were advocating for what was happening in our community to stop. We know that everybody who's been arraigned has pled not guilty, including myself. We're waiting for the prosecution to turn in evidence. They continue to kick the can and ask for more time. After they turn in their evidence, we'll have about a week to respond. But people should know the original judge who had this case declined to issue any arrest warrants for anyone other than the first 3 people. The prosecution appealed that. That was denied. They went to another judge. That judge was not, he issued like a whole letter. Then they withdrew their complaint. Then they went to a grand jury. So they've had, like, they've exhausted almost all measures to come after us. And now the fact that they haven't produced any evidence yet, I mean, they're not past their deadline, but like still, it's just, you got to think 14 prosecutors quit the DOJ after all of this stuff happened in Minnesota. You had the Republican candidate who was running for governor who dropped out after Alex Preddy was killed. So everyone who was really co-signing what this administration was doing, at least there in Minnesota, they don't want any parts of this, you know? And so it's not that the case isn't serious. It's very serious. It haunts me every single day that the worst case scenario of this situation is I don't get to see my children grow up. That is what I have worked my entire life for. Like, I love my career, and as a woman, as a mother, don't get it twisted. It's all about making sure my baby girls have everything that they want and need. And so for someone to threaten that I will miss those moments, that my 7-year-old daughter might not even recognize me or remember me when this is all said and done, I think about that every single day. But for what? Because what did I do? Because I reported on what was happening in my community?
Yeah.
Journalism is not a crime.
Journalism is not a crime. We're going to have to leave it there. Georgia Ford, I hope you'll come back again. Certainly we're going to track this story, and anything that I can do, journalist to journalist, to support you,
Thank you
in your case,
Thank
and
you.
And your beautiful daughters.
Thank you.
We're here for you
so much. It means a lot.
Absolutely. KBLA is behind you every step. Tavis Smiley is up next. He's got a jam-packed show as per usual. Like my dad, Mary Baraka, used to say, a person is either free or they are not free. There can be no apprenticeship for freedom. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. A strike appears to be ending at NYU after faculty reached a tentative contract agreement. This student joined the professors on the picket lines.
If they get their fair compensation, then I get the quality education that I'm paying for and that I deserve.
Professors demanded better pay, AI protections, and childcare. Black Maryland Governor Wes Moore says the Port of Baltimore had its second best year ever in 2025, moving about 50 million tons of cargo as it rebounds from the Key Bridge collapse.